We know that yesterday there were two additional earthquakes happened in that region. How much impact does these two earthquakes have for your relief operation? Thank you.
Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Stefan, do you want me to take one by one?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So if we go for the most needed items, we will say shelter at this point, food and cash. If we take shelter, just to give an idea about what's happening, people have been living in tents, but those who had been impacted by the earthquake had left their homes, and they are in need of shelter under a very harsh winter conditions. With the earthquake that happened yesterday, those where their houses had been tested and say that it's good to go back to live into, had left them, and definitely they are in panic, and they will not go back to live in these houses. So the estimation previously for those who are in needed shelter is no longer now standing, and we need to add those who left their homes in fear or because these homes had been impacted in the new wave of the earthquake that took place last night. In terms of how we are impacted, we are still delivering. Humanitarian workers and frontline local actors are still there. The impact is in terms of the added humanitarian caseload as we speak. People who need more support, winter conditions are very high. Cholera, over 47,000 cases are already there, and access to quality drinkable water is not the case. Health system is overwhelmed. Health facilities impacted by the earthquake, and the level of trauma cases is just adding to this burden. This to keep in mind as well is that chronic disease and secondary health care remain also one of the main challenges. Over from my side, Stefan.
Thank you. Pam?
Thank you very much for the briefing. It's Pam Falk from CBS. Can you, first of all, a clarification. The cholera is on both sides of the border, I assume?
The cholera is in the northwest.
Okay. And are there any trucks not getting in to the Syria side?
No, none. All the trucks are moving through 3 crossing points: Bab al-Hawa, Bab al-Salam, and Bab al-Rai.
Okay, and the final little piece is on the cholera, what is being sent? Medical supplies? I mean, can you elaborate? Thank you.
Medical supplies have been sent. Other additional supplies are on the way. As I said, on 2 days and since the 9th of February, some of the trucks that went also with cholera testing kits, and cholera vaccination campaign also will restart after it had been interrupted by the earthquake.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ephraim, Arab News.
Thank you. Ms. Ghada, what about water provision? I have a series of short questions. Water, are you being able to deliver water to some of these people? We know it's one of the main reasons why cholera is spreading, is the lack of water.
Yes, this is still trucking. Water delivery is continuing, but it's water trucking.
Okay, and are there still communities that you have not been able to reach yet? We're still hearing about people that have not received any aid in some villages. Is this still the case, or are you confident now that you are able to reach the areas that were not accessible in the beginning?
We are confident that the efforts had been increased drastically than the previous days, definitely. As I said at the beginning, our colleagues, everyone was on the shock of the earthquake. The system, this is one of the rare situations where those who are responding to a crisis were also impacted by it. So it took some time. We have still colleagues in the office who had lost family members, who are spending nights in cars. Last night, we spent the night outside in the street because of the earthquake. So it's quite stressful to see how the first line responders are being impacted. But now the system is definitely gearing up, reaching more people. I can see also from my colleagues when we crossed as UN personnel as well and be in touch with the communities. This is the first time in 12 years that we not only sending aid through trucks to cross the border, but actually being there among the people, talking to the mothers and children and putting faces to the figures and numbers and visiting communities. Being physically in Afrin, in Jandaris, in Sarmada, in Dana, and elsewhere, this is definitely a game changer, that we are there among those communities and seeing firsthand not only the level of destruction that the earthquake had caused, but the impact of enduring 12 years of the conflict and displacement.
And just one last one. We see a lot on social media, there's this sort of anger in the Northwest directed at the UN because of the slow pace of things in the beginning and, accusations that not enough trucks are entering, and all of that. I'm sure you followed all of that. Do you feel now the atmosphere has changed? How are your people being treated on the ground by the local populations?
Myself, I had been inside in many of the areas. My colleagues also, we went in different convoys. We had been received with the generosity and the hospitality of the people of the Northwest Syria and the Syrians. The anger, they have the right to be angry. This is not a level of a crisis that you see every day. This is an immediate impact on them. And you can imagine the first 72 hours, the first 5 days, 6, 7 days, where children and people are being trying to get their beloved one from the rebels. I have a colleague here with us in the office who tried to save his parents, and luckily he did, and he managed to do that. So being angry, definitely, they have the right to be angry. The first search and rescue was not on time, but now humanitarian aid, saving lives, those who survived the earthquake, they need to be saved, they need to be accessed by humanitarian assistance, and this is what we are doing now. What we don't want to have is to be short of resources and is to be short of our ability and capacity to continue to reach them through all crossing points as quickly as possible and as much needed as possible.
Thank you. Abdullah?
Thank you, Madam Mudawiwill. Abdullah Imasi from Al Arabi TV. Madam Mudawiwill, some news report that Syrian regime forces is again bombarding Afs, Sarqab, Idlib in northwest of Syria. The areas distressed by the earthquake. First, can you confirm this and how that can affect your humanitarian effort? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I cannot confirm or deny. We were not in these areas. We had been entering to different locations, as I mentioned them. We did stay on ground. We did spend quite remarkable time with the population, talking to women groups, visiting emergency shelters that had been provided, but we were not in the areas that you have mentioned.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anything online? Excellent. Listen, thank you very much. We'll let you go back to work, and we hope to have you back here, Ghada, to report back, as this will clearly be a long-term operation. But thank you for beaming in, and take care.
Thank you so much, Stefan. See you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. All right. We've got quite a bit of other news here. Unfortunately, we have to start off with some sad news from our peacekeeping colleagues in Mali. The UN peacekeeping mission in Mali reports that 3 peacekeepers from Senegal were killed and 5 others were injured this morning when their convoy hit an improvised explosive device in the Bandiagara region in central Mali. The Secretary General conveys his deepest condolences to the families of the peacekeepers, and we, of course, wish the wounded peacekeepers a speedy and full recovery. I expect to have a statement on that shortly. The head of the peacekeeping mission in Mali, El Gassi Mwane, said this was yet another tragic illustration of the complexity of the operational environment and sacrifices made for restoring peace in the country. I think you got a full briefing on Turkey and Syria, so I won't add much. Just to say that we have been asked about how many UN staff are currently in Turkey and Syria right now. At present, the UN system has 146 international and 417 national personnel in Turkey. That's 563 in all, and 55 international and 810 national personnel in Syria. That's 865 total in Syria, and that's for a total of about exactly 1,428 people in both countries. On Ukraine, our humanitarian colleagues are telling us that our humanitarian colleagues in Ukraine condemned today yet another attack that left civilians killed and injured, and that took place a few hours ago in the center of Kherson. They note that this is yet another example of the violations against civilians that have been that have gone on since the start of this conflict. In the middle of the afternoon, the strike hit a busy street of Kherson, according to our humanitarian partners who are on the ground. Local authorities tell us that 6 civilians were killed and another 16 injured. Most of them were standing at a bus stop when the attack happened. Our colleagues from the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission in the country are trying to verify the number of civilian casualties, and they tell us that the death toll might increase. This was not the only incident in recent hours. Yesterday, for example, a number of schools and dozens of homes were hit in different parts of eastern Ukraine. We reiterate that international humanitarian law must be respected, and civilians and civilian infrastructures must be protected in Ukraine. UNICEF tells us that since the 24th of February of last year, thanks to the support of the international community, it has provided learning supplies to 1.8 million children engaged over 2.5 million children in formal and non-formal education, provided mental health and psychosocial support to 4.6 million children and caregivers. UNICEF has also provided gender-based violence response services to 725,000 women and children, access to safe water for 5.6 million people, healthcare services to 5.4 million people, and multi-purpose cash assistance to 277,000 households. And that's inside Ukraine as well as in refugee hosting communities. Also on Ukraine, you will have seen that earlier today in Geneva, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, today deplored the human cost of the war in Ukraine, which has left at least 8,006 civilians dead and 13,287 injured over the past 12 months, in addition to the numerous lives previously lost to a conflict in eastern Ukraine. He noted these numbers, which were published by the UN Human Rights Office today, lay bare the loss and suffering inflicted on people since Russia's armed attack began on 24th of February last year. Mr. Turk said the data are only the tip of the iceberg, and the toll on civilians is unbearable. He stressed that every day violations of international human rights and humanitarian law continue, and becomes harder and harder to find a way forward through mounting suffering, destruction towards peace. Back here in the Security Council, Valentin Rugwabiza, the Secretary General Special Representative for the Central African Republic, briefed council members on the situation in that country. She said that over the past 3 months, there has been an increase in insecurity due to attacks and increased increased activities by armed groups. She noted new patterns of attacks, including the use of explosive devices and drones, which is having serious consequences on the local population and poses serious threat to the safety and security of peacekeepers. This afternoon at 3 p.m., the Security Council will hold an open meeting on threats to international peace and security. Rosemary DiCarlo, the Undersecretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, is expected to brief Council members. A note from Eastern Africa, as you will have seen in the news, Tropical Cyclone Freddy is making landfall on the East Coast after passing Mauritius and La Réunion. Yesterday with strong winds and heavy rains. About 2.6 million people in Madagascar, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe could be impacted by the cyclone. We and our partners have pre-deployed about 80 staff and pre-positioned emergency stock to areas likely to be affected. 2 aircraft are also on standby to facilitate assessment and initial response. And quick update from South Sudan, where a peacekeeping mission there continues to support the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement. In Eastern Equatorial Province, the mission reinforced the capacity of community members, particularly youth, to peacefully resolve conflicts. They engage with state and county officials, as well as with the South Sudan Council of Churches to help prevent intercommunal violence. Peacekeepers are also patrolling the area between Serentia and Ikotos to reduce tensions among communities and improve security. In the Greater Tonj area, the UN mission launched a second phase of projects funded by South Sudan Multi-Partner Trust Fund for Reconciliation, Stabilization, and Resilience. The aim is to restore peaceful coexistence through dialogue and local priorities. Separately, in preparation for the forthcoming rainy season, the mission deployed all-terrain vehicles in Jonglei State to ensure a nimble and robust response to possible emergencies, including in flood-prone areas that were previously inaccessible. Also linked to South Sudan, the UN Refugee Agency today, with 108 humanitarian development partners, appealed for $1.3 billion to protect and assist 2.2 million South Sudanese refugees this year. The funds will go towards supporting the South Sudanese refugees and their local host community in the DRC, Ethiopia, Kenya, Sudan, and Uganda. And in South Africa, our team, UN team, which is led by our resident coordinator, Nelson Mufu, is supporting the government's response to severe flooding that has led to a declaration of national state of disaster. Following a joint assessment mission last week, UN agencies led by UNICEF, along with the government and various NGOs, stepped up their response. They're providing food, shelter, and shelter to impacted population, facilitating uninterrupted access to services, including through mobile clinics. These services are being offered to more than 1,200 people who've been impacted by the flood. Thank you. And today is International Mother Language Day, or as we say, la journée de la langue maternelle. This year's theme is multilingual education, a necessity to transform education. The theme aligns with the recommendations made during the Transforming Education Summit, where an emphasis was also placed on indigenous peoples' education and language. After you're done with me at 1 p.m., Hervé Berville, the Secretary of State for the Sea of France, together with actress and activist Jane Fonda, as well as Laura Miller, Oceans campaigner and polar advisor of Greenpeace Nordic, will be briefing you on expectations of the High Seas Treaty. The final negotiations for a new global treaty to safeguard high seas marine life resumed yesterday and will continue until March 3rd. And bear with me, and then you can ask a question. Okay, Edith.
Thank you, Steph. Does the Secretary General have any comment on President Vladimir Putin's State of the Union speech, in which he announced the suspension of the New START nuclear treaty?
Well, I will I will reiterate the Secretary General's position, which has been clear, and that is that the U.S. and the Russian Federation should resume the full implementation of the New START treaty without delay. The New START and successive bilateral treaties on strategic nuclear arms reduction between the two countries have provided security not only for Russia and the United States, but for the entire international community. Which this should not need to be said, but it needs to be said. A world without nuclear arms control is a far more dangerous and unstable one, with potentially catastrophic consequences. Every effort should be taken to avoid this outcome, including through an immediate return to dialogue. Excellent. Oh. Damn. I was going to tiptoe out of here. Michelle, then Stefano.
Just to follow on from Edie's question, how concerned is the Secretary General that, Russia might resume nuclear testing and what that might mean for other global crises such as North Korea, Iran?
Well, we can't. I can't speculate on what countries may do. What we do know is that it is vital to have continued high-level engagement between the world's two powerful nuclear powers, and that is why we call for a resumption of the full implementation by all parties of the New START treaty. Stefano.
Yes, thank you, Stefano. This is about Libya. On the African Union meeting, it was announced that the African Union is working for a reconciliation conference. And my question is, because Special Envoy Batili is also working for reconciliation, election, all this. Is this plan of the African Union goes along with Batili plan, or is an alternative?
No, it's not. It's not at all a. It's not at all a contradiction or a competition. In fact, the African Union is in the lead for the national reconciliation process, and we remain ready to support these efforts as needed. But we are the African Union is a partner of the United Nations, and so this is not at all a competition in any way, shape, or form. Deji.
Let me get back to the New START treaty. Has the Secretary General have any plans to talk to President Putin on the issue of the New START treaty and other issues like concerning the crisis in Ukraine?
Nothing to share with you at this point. Abdelai.
Thank you, Steph. Since we are celebrating the International Mother Tongue Day, what is the Secretary General message to the UN member states regarding the situation of mother tongues everywhere, pushing those countries to adopt more policies which protect and preserve these languages? Thank you.
Protecting languages is about protecting culture. It's about protecting human identity. It is vital that every member state and and often local authorities are dealing with this, do whatever they can to protect languages. Once a language disappears, it's a whole history that disappears, and it is almost impossible to bring it back. Ephraim.
Stefan, what do you consider is your mother tongue, French or English?
My mother tongue is the language my mother first spoke to me, which is French. But thank you for checking, and thank you for reminding me. More importantly, I appreciate your concern, your deep concern, no doubt. Abdel Hamid.
Thank you, Stefan. The U.S. Congress soon will be debating a motion to redefine who is a Palestinian refugee. And they are prepared to drop out the children and the ancestors of the original Palestinian refugees of 1948. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, I mean, you know, we're not in the habit of commenting on debates or laws that may or may not be passed. What I can reiterate is our strong and full support for the work of UNRWA, the vital work that UNRWA does for Palestine refugees in the occupied Palestinian territories, in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria. They provide a lifeline to millions, social support, medical support, educational support. UNRWA was not designed to bring a political solution to the Israeli-Palestinian crisis. That is for others to do. The mandate given by UNRWA to UNRWA by the General Assembly is a vital one, which we support and we call on all member states to support. Mushfiq, please.
Thank you, Stefan. Today is the International Mother Language Day, and
indeed it is. Indeed it is. You see, I can't even speak English because it's not my mother tongue. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it is Bangladesh who fought for mother language in 1952, and we achieved that, and that's why it's the International Mother Language Day. And thank you, Ivan, and thank you, Stefan. You are addressing these issues rightly. But ahead of the International Mother Language Day, still we are struggling for rights. Ahead of Mother Language Day, Bangladesh government forces main opposition newspaper, Bengali newspaper, shut down the daily Dinkal. And according to AFP report, it employs hundreds of journalists and press workers and covers news stories that the mainstream newspapers, most of which are controlled by pro-government business people, really do. So what is your comment on that as the Bangladesh government is shutting down newspapers, news outlets, one after another?
Well, we've already expressed our concern about the shrinking space that we're seeing for some media outlets in Bangladesh, and we continue to express that same position. Thank you. Any other questions? Excellent. 1 o'clock in this room, French briefing with Jeanne Fonda.